Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Joseph Koppas, and today I'm joined by my guest, Kevin Ballister. Thanks for being on today, Kevin.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Dr. Koppas.
Of course. So Kevin, you run a successful podcast, and B, you have a very informative book, and you're also involved in medical advocating. But before we get into all those things, can you tell us how you got to this point and why you're so interested in these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I sustained a severe traumatic brain injury while I was in a coma. My family was told that I had less than a 10% chance of recovery beyond a persistent vegetative state. I was diagnosed with a diffuse axonal injury. And if you go on Google and you type in diffuse axonal injury, you'll get source after source after source, and they all basically say the same thing. 90% never wake up, and of the 10% that do, most remain in a persistent vegetative state. So I'm super fortunate to be alive. I didn't eat, walk, or talk for months. My left hand was totally flexed inwards like that. I was breathing through a tube. I was receiving nutrition through a tube. And a lot went into my recovery. First of all, I'm extremely appreciative to have gotten the emergency care that saved my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the phenomenal medical technology and emergency medicine in this country. When it came beyond that, however, when it came to restoring my health, that was on me to a great degree, and it was also on finding the practitioners that really could help me to restore my health. And so functional neurology, neurooptometry, functional medicine, things of that sort played a huge part. And my functional neurologist steered me towards a nutritional protocol. And I was skeptical, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, nutrition, that's gonna fix my brain, but I decided that if I didn't get better, it wouldn't be for lack of trying. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll try, I'll do it to the T. And I did. And I started to regain clarity. I was like, whoa.
What did the diet consist of, if I can ask?
It actually, that was a simple leaky gut protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your audience isn't familiar with leaky gut, basically when you first eat food, it's partially digested and broken down in your stomach,
Mm-hmm.
and then passed on to your small intestines, where it's further broken down. So imagine inside of your intestines being down here, and
Mm-hmm.
up here would be the portal vein. So this is the blood that takes up the nutrients. The food usually goes down here, and it's broken down into fats, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and then those fit through these tight junctions into the bloodstream as digested food particles. And your blood goes, oh, I know what that is. That's an amino acid. Like that's cysteine. That's a fatty acid. That's DHA. Let's take that to the brain, and it knows what the particles are. With
Mm-hmm.
leaky gut, this gut lining becomes permeable, and now it's more like that. And so down here we have all these food particles, and now these openings are big enough so that these food particles can fit through and enter your bloodstream undigested. And when an undigested food particle is in your bloodstream, you react the same way you would if you had a splinter or something else foreign in your bloodstream. It would inflame the area, it gets red, it gets puffy, and and it gets painful. But the thing is,
Mhm.
we don't have the same pain receptors, especially on the outside of our intestinal lining.
Yeah.
So it's not noticeable. But when we see like beer bellies, for example, that's not fat. That's inflammation. And so the thing is, if you have a brain injury, your brain isn't communicating very well with your gut. And it's very common with brain injury to have leaky gut, more to have a greater degree of leaky gut.
Mhm.
And with that means that more food particles are able to enter the bloodstream undigested,
Mhm.
and more inflammation happens there. And one thing that I want to note is that inflammatory cytokines are sent to the area. That's part of the immune response. And inflammatory cytokines are basically chemical messengers that tell your body to bring the troops, bring the mast cells, bring T cells, bring whatever to
Mhm.
fight this infection. Here's the thing: immune or cytokines, inflammatory cytokines, are able to cross even a healthy blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
So so inflammation anywhere in your body, the cytokines are able to cross the blood-brain barrier and inflame the brain. And when
Yeah.
the brain's inflamed, communication with your body's disrupted. Communication is disrupted, including to your digestion, to your gut. So your gut becomes more permeable, and more food particles enter, and more inflammation, and it becomes this vicious cycle.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know this at all before, but I was like, "Whoa, this worked!" And then I began to research why it worked.
Mhm.
First, my functional neurologist did a blood test, and he noticed that certain amino acids were low. And so amino acids are part of proteins, and he's like, "You're not digesting the food you're eating effectively, specifically the proteins." And I was like, "I eat meat with every meal. I have a protein shake every morning.
Mhm.
What are you saying? Eat more protein?" It's like, no, no, no. We need to fix your gut because, like I said, that's what was happening. And
Mhm.
this food part of the food wasn't being digested; it was being attacked. And
Yeah.
so the first thing was healing the digestion, and then as we healed the digestion, then individual nutrients were coming through, individual amino acids, and those were getting picked up and taken to my brain.
Mhm.
So now I was absorbing the food that I was eating. So then I was like, all right, so what is optimal for my brain? Because
Mhm.
basically it was don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this. Take these supplements to repair your gut. And I did all that. But then I was like, all right, now I'm getting the nutrients. What's the best? And he didn't really have an answer for me. So I did a lot of research, searching for what nutrients are optimal for brain function. And, as I said, inflammation anywhere in the body is able to cross the blood-brain barrier and inflame the brain.
Mhm.
And so, How to Feed a Brain is the book I wrote.
Mhm.
Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair. And the thing about it is it's not just brain health. This is health in
Mhm.
general, but especially nervous system because it's kind of my favorite, and it affects everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And you're so right. Inflammation in the body, like from leaky gut, you've got this going on, plus you've got an underlying brain injury, and then you're just perpetuating that cycle. You're just making it that much harder to heal. And then you look at patients who have come out, 3 to 9 years later are still dealing with, you know, concussion symptoms. So unless you're able to look at it from a rehabilitative approach and from this metabolic approach and this gut health approach, you can't put out, you can't start rebuilding the house while the house is still on fire, you know?
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah. So what are some other, some tips or some guidance that you like to offer in the book? Maybe some things, takeaway things for our audience.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, supplementation is important. Unless you're eating organ meats every day, and you're eating fermented foods every day, and you're eating plenty of cold water fatty fish every day, um, I think, let's see, is there another one? Might be one more. But the supplementation is important. Oh, and you're getting plenty of sunlight every day.
Yeah.
All of those things are so important, and just with our lifestyles, it's it's easy to supplement these things, and they make these awesome little products called supplements that like. And believe me, I'm not a fan of all supplements,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some very powerful ones that
Mm-hmm.
I take every day. Um, and those include high DHA omega-3. Those include probiotics. And actually, I don't take the probiotics every day,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more like um, I'll take a course and then I'll back off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll take a course and I'll back off because I like allowing my my food to feed the probiotics that I've already put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if that gets if I feel like I need more good bugs in there and make sure I'm getting good bugs, then
Mm-hmm.
I'll put those back in. But probiotics, organ meat capsules.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like I travel. Well, I don't anymore because of coronavirus
Yeah.
at the moment. At the time of this recording, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But but I travel a lot, and I do enjoy organ meats.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not very great at cooking them, and they need to be cooked really well. They need to be done right. Um, and I'm not about to cook some organ meats in somebody's home that I'm staying with. They're usually not very happy about the scent that's created.
Yeah.
So I get organ meat capsules. Done.
Mm-hmm.
Easy solution. And I've been working with ancestral supplements. And
Mm-hmm.
you can actually use coupon code FeedABrain for a discount from them.
Mm-hmm.
Organ meat capsules, probiotics. Sea vegetables.
Okay.
Sea vegetables. Most people, that was the other one that I was thinking. Unless we're eating sea vegetables every
Mm-hmm.
day, supplement with them.
Yeah.
Sea
Yeah.
vegetables are fantastic. You know,
Mm-hmm.
humans had sea vegetables, and the soil of the sea is not as depleted as the soil on that is on the earth, that is on the surface of the earth.
Which is a huge
So
problem right now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's really powerful to get sea vegetables, and we can get kelp, dulse, and that's what I do. I alternate between kelp and dulse every day in
Mm-hmm.
order to get those nutrients.
Very
So
nice.
you can get. I have a whole guide for supplementation on my website, feedabrain.com. Click on the drop down at the very beginning that says free gifts or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is supplementation for optimal brain function.
Okay. So, since implementing this strategy into your life, we know you saw the functional neurologist, and then he had you on this kind of gut rebuild protocol or leaky gut protocol. And now that you've, researched more and more, and you've got this strategy, how has your own personal experience and your own personal life been improved or changed?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me rewind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Running supplementation first, and that's not the way it goes. It's actually food first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Supplementation second.
Yeah.
But those supplements are very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, I do want to give the audience a little bit of food aspects of this
Of course.
also.
Yeah.
So for food, there's three different types of produce we need to get every day, and we also need to supply protein. We need to supply plenty of fat. So food first. But let me answer your question about what I've seen since implementing what I've been implementing. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been in a pretty rough space. While I was in a coma for 12 days the first time, and then I woke up, and then I had breathing problems and was put in an induced coma for another 7 days. And going from where I was to where I am is night and day. Like it's amazing, and recognizing the space that I was in, and why I came back. Because I essentially came back from the dead. I came back from a coma,
Yeah.
and coming back from that, it's it's really it's a really powerful thing to think about. Like, why was that?
Mm-hmm.
What is important in life? And this is I life is amazing. I love my life. I love my life. It's so good. And I can't do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a certain amount of ataxia, or as a functional neurologist told me, it's not ataxia, it's dystaxia.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not, ataxia means that I have no coordination.
Right.
Dystaxia means that it's inhibited. So a neurological test, you do this as quick as you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's as quick as I can do it on my left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And for the listeners, it's like, I know, a third of the pace that I can do it on my right.
Mm-hmm.
Of duck billing my hand is what is
Yeah,
what
that was really a good video demonstration if anyone wants to go to the YouTube.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, so there are things that I can't do as well. I also speak slower. I have dysarthria, and I actually narrated the audiobook of my book anyways. I was the narrator for it.
Awesome.
And the thing, the abilities that I've regained are huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a place of expectation. Yeah, I'm going to regain all this stuff. And then, ta-da,
Yeah.
regain it all. And not just like ta-da, but I put my effort, my attention, and my intention
Mm-hmm.
towards it every single day. And it's amazing. I mean, I jump off diving boards. I do jujitsu, where none of that was even close to an option.
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you brought that up. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but you said you really had a perspective shift after being in the coma, and you realized how great life actually is. Um, what would you say, the best thing about, or the most important thing in life is, or for you, and, what really keeps you going and motivated, to
Nice.
keep loving life and enjoying the world we live in?
That's an excellent question. So I'm a neurotrauma medical advocate as well as an author and
Hmm.
speaker, and I have a podcast. Um, but and this is what I've noticed through my work with clients who often have a loved one in a serious situation, in a medical crisis, is that many, actually a lot of the times I get clients who are referred to me by doctors like yourself who they're contacted because the loved one contacts a functional neurologist or a neurooptometrist or something, is like looking for help, but their loved one is in a coma or something like that. And so they refer me because I work with people in those situations and partner with them to get the best results. And the greatest predictor of a successful outcome is the communal intention, is the people and and I don't want to sound all woo woo on this, but it's true. It's real. Like this is just what I've observed. Is people have a lot of people that are rooting for them. They tend to recover, and those who do not don't. And there's absolutely like there's I mean we all know that there's an energy, right? That there is energy that people bring with them, and their intention and their persona. That's not the word. Their demeanor is so important to the recovery of their loved one. And so that is so important. And I'm very fortunate to have had friends and family there to help me to recover. And that it's such a great question because I think that's what's really important is our life experience is is with each other. And that's where that's where the meaning of life is. Actually, long before my brain injury, I I was camping with some friends and I disappeared for a while. And or so I'm told of this. I disappeared for a while, went off into the woods, and then I came back at one point, came with the campfire, and they're like, "Whoa, where have you been, man?" And I was like, "I figured out the meaning of life." And they're like, "Oh yeah, what's the meaning of life?" I said, "The meaning of life is to positively influence the lives you touch," and I still hold that. And at this point, I sustained a severe injury, and I've been researching like my life depends on it because it does. And I've been connecting with powerful, extremely qualified practitioners and learning from them and contacting them for my clients in order to understand what the best move is at whatever point we're at. And and that's such a gift. And because I mean I have so many of my abilities back. I demonstrated that I still have limitations to some of my abilities,
Hmm.
but I have a ability that I never would have had before. And that ability is to connect with people in this situation and share an experience that they feel like that no one else can share with them,
Hmm.
and partner with them and hold their hand through that. And
Hmm.
because I have that ability, I feel like I have a responsibility to do so,
Yeah.
and super excited to have that responsibility because responsibility is the ability to respond.
Hmm.
And I love having the ability to respond. That's I celebrate. that responsibility, that ability every single day. And I love my life.
Yeah. I'm blown away by that answer. That was pretty phenomenal. That was great. Um, Fantastic words of wisdom. Um, we had said we weren't really going to go into this particular topic as far as your empowerment series that you're working on right
Yeah.
now, which is mostly for the current situation of coronavirus, because hopefully by the time this is airing, coronavirus won't be affecting our lives as much as it is. But I feel like maybe some of those takeaways could relate to other people in situations like you, or who maybe just suffered a TBI or something else neurologically related, where now their life completely stops. What are maybe some takeaways that you've been realizing from these talks that you've been having that might empower these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, exactly. It's all the same. It's dealing with a situation where there is a lot of uncertainty and a loss of control. And this is what I've been talking about in the empowerment series with COVID-19, the whole world shutting down, and there's uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty, and a feeling that we don't have control, you know? And those are the ingredients for fear. And with fear, we tend to come out of our rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, and go deep into our limbic brain, where we're very reactionary. And during this time, during any time where that happens, there's tools we can do to get us back to a state where we can go back to our frontal lobes, where we can go back to our rationality. Because when we get in the limbic brain, it tends to spiral. And then limbic systems fight with other limbic systems, and you have this whole like battle that ensues of people's, reptilian brains fighting with each other. Stepping back and taking deep breath. And I know everybody's like, yeah, take a deep breath, especially when we're in this, when we're talking to somebody who's in a very serious situation where their whole life has been turned upside down. I mean, right now during the whole world shutting down in lieu of coronavirus, I have a client in Italy whose daughter is unable to breathe without a respirator. And she contacted me and was like, I can't leave the hospital. They won't let me. And your book is in my apartment, which isn't far away, but I can't even go there, you know? And so finding peace within yourself in that place, there's a couple little tricks that work for me, things that I tell myself, that I meditate on. So that's a very powerful tool as well. Meditation, let your let your brain have its experience, you know? And if you can sit still and allow your brain to have its experience for, for 5 minutes, do 1 minute at first, then 2 minutes, and keep on extending it bit by bit. When you can do that, and then come out of that and write down some things. But there are a couple aspects to really pay attention to. The language you use is so powerful. Our neurology is very much programmed by language. And so telling yourself, I've seen people where they'll do like, oh, I'm so stupid. And that's so, it's so a friend of mine says, if you don't want it, don't say it. Because our when we think something, that's one thing. That's powerful, and changing our thought patterns is great. When we say something, it becomes more powerful and more ingrained in our neurology. And when we write it, it becomes even more ingrained in our neurology. So when you come out of that meditation, when you let these thoughts go by, if you are able to set the trajectory of your thoughts, which happens one thought at a time, oftentimes just reframing things, and then coming out of that and writing down something, this is reprogramming your neurology. And some a very powerful tool when you're thinking about things is if you're thinking about something and it doesn't feel good to think about it, but it's the case. I mean, there's the option don't think about it, which works if it's not something that is immediately in your world. But if you need to, the next thing you can do is choose your perspective of it. And this is where, the name of my podcast is Adventures in Brain Injury. And the reason why it's called that is because while I was in the hospital, unable to eat, walk, or talk, my left hand was totally flexed inward, and I was a musician. I'm still a musician. I don't play like I used to, but it sounds like it does now, and I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in that position, I was like, oh man, my life's over. I'll never play guitar again. I can't even talk, let alone sing. And I can't even wrap my hand around a guitar, let alone play. And then I was like, all right, this doesn't feel good. And so I switched my perspective. It's like, what if, and I searched for a perspective that felt better. And the perspective that I landed on was that this is an adventure. And it's like something that's not true. This is a different way to look at things. This is an adventure. An adventure sucks sometimes. So it makes sense that right now sucks. And after it sucks, it's gonna get better. It has to. There's only one way to go from here. And that's the direction it's going to go. So with the coronavirus pandemic, with people losing their jobs, um, people when people scared of this virus, this little thing they can't see, taste, or touch, they know very little about, and there's mystery about it. And it's been my experience to see a lot of people fighting about statistics that somebody else wrote that are probably flawed in some ways or another, or definitely flawed in some way or another, according to the White House, saying that they're marking everything as COVID. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at the all-cause mortality, it hasn't changed. It's just pneumonia is now called COVID-19. I do think that they're different things,
Mm-hmm.
but pneumonia deaths have gone down and COVID-19 deaths have gone up, which it's so surprising. Well, it's not necessarily surprising, but it's so interesting how that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I heard recently that we're actually Medicaid is actually paying hospitals what is it $13,000 for COVID admission, and they're paying $39,000 for anybody put on a respirator who has COVID.
Hmm.
So these are like, and so that's incentive for the doctors to
Yeah.
write COVID.
Yeah.
Anyways, this probably aside the point, but there's we're in this situation where there's fear. There's fear all over the place, and if you have a loved one in a serious situation, there really is a serious situation. And there's really a serious situation now, but it's not the virus.
Hmm.
Um, so Siri just came up because it's
You said the magic word, right?
oh my god. All right. So anyways, there is definitely a time when we're in this heavy situation, and it's hard to find ways to reframe it. And this is where adventure has been one of the most powerful words, in my recent life, really. Taking things in adventure, because everything has been, is, and will continue to happen perfectly.
Mhm. I
Because if I
think.
look at the past,
Mhm.
in the past it was the present. And in order for me to be where I am right now, things had to happen perfectly. So in the past it was the present, and things were happening perfectly. And they were going to continue to happen perfectly in order for me to be where I am.
Yeah.
So I know that everything has been, is, and will continue to happen perfectly.
Hmm.
And I can look with playful curiosity about life. So how
Yeah.
is this going to happen? And do everything that I can to bring things to the best place, but know that that's all part of things being perfect.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect way to frame any situation, really. Life's not necessarily about what happens to us, but what we do with what happens to us later on. So, but you said that much more eloquently than I did.
You said it in way fewer words, which is pretty eloquent.
Thank you. So we are just about out of time, and I want to make sure that we touch on everything that you want to talk about. So I just want to make sure that if we missed anything, feel free to you know talk about that now. And if you have any final words of wisdom or hope for our listeners, that would be great too. And if you could let everybody know again how they can find you.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Send me an email on my contact form, feedabrain.com. And especially if you have a loved one in a situation that needs attention, I have a 100% success rate coaching my clients to get the treatments they choose, because there are many powerful treatments outside of the standard of care. And it's so important for us to get the treatments that we choose, and to partner with the medical team and everybody on the team for your loved one. I have a podcast called the Adventures in Brain Injury Podcast. I also have a blog there, and feedabrain.com. I have the supplements, recipes, things of that sort found at feedabrain.com. And just see what I'm up to. Feedabrain on all the social media, and Kevin Ballister on Facebook is where I've been most active, just on my personal page.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go there, you can, friend request me or follow me. Or both. Follow me and send me a friend request. Hey, I'll get to them, and send me a message there. Or email me if you don't do the Facebook thing.
Mm-hmm.
Get it.
That's great. Well, thank you, Kevin, for being on today. This was a phenomenal podcast, especially in these trying times. Hopefully, when this comes out, things won't be as trying. But there's always going to be life that happens, and there's always going to be moments where this is going to be relevant for everyone. So, yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And this has been your host, Dr. Kappas from the Neuro Wellness Podcast. Be well.